episode of Sight School. Your boy Lex Gillette here, Joseph Gray. What's up,
Man,
Mike?
I hope y'all got them spectacles on, them good glasses.
They stay with him, stay with him, stay with him. So Joe had Googled blind people recently, and one of the first things that popped up was, can blind people live alone? So we felt like it would be a good opportunity to go ahead and debunk this idea that people have when it comes to blind and visually impaired people. Can we live on our own? Can we hold down a house? Can we pay rent, mortgage? Can we cook, clean, all of those things? Because it's really a thing, right? Like they look at us and wonder, oh my gosh, are you able to live life, quote unquote, normal? For lack of a better term. And with all due respect, in college, I eventually had an apartment. Now I did have roommates. But since that time, I've just been navigating on my own for the most part. And I don't think that people understand that when they think about blind and visually impaired people, they may think about us having a companion, a partner, somebody to help us all of the time. So, Joe, what's your experience though with being out in the world, if you will, after you left the nest? What happened?
Man, I think one of the biggest things that I encountered, I think a lot of people just wonder like how do you get around? Now, granted, my situation was a little different. I was able to drive, but even still, I had people question if I should be driving. What goes back to what we talked about earlier. I had to explain, advocate, and let people know, I drive with a bioptic, these type of things. But for a lot of people, when they facing, I think seeing adversity, some people just can't grasp hold of that, and it's like, nah, you shouldn't be doing that, or they just don't get it, and they just keep constantly questioning it. Like I had friends who were totally blind that people they couldn't even apply for a job sometimes because people were like, well, this probably isn't the positions for you, not realizing that that's discrimination. But I think, man, society, they just don't know. They don't see blind and visually impaired people all the time. So when they see us, they automatically, it goes back to what we say. It turns into that, are you sure you can do this? Maybe you shouldn't, you need a handler kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when you're talking about driving with the bioptic, I remember in college, one of my buddies, he had albinism, and he eventually got his license, and he was using the bioptics as well. And I'm laughing because we had some other friends who they had 20/20 eyesight, and I remember their reactions to him being in the car and being on the road and things like that, and it was just so far off the it was just crazy.
Hey,
And
I know. I mean, my friends used to do the same thing. They get in the car and be like, man,
are we gonna be good?
Yeah. Hey, people, they put their seatbelts on a lot quicker.
Right. But yeah, I think that, man, I don't know. I just think that at the end of the day, people need to see it more. And to your point, society, for sure, I know I say this a lot, but we are disabled most times because of how society is set up and how it's organized. So when they see us out and about, and if we're not able to do certain things, it's not actually because of the literal blindness. It's because I may go into a restaurant and they don't have a braille menu. It's because I may go into a grocery store and there are no people at the customer service office to help me grab my items, or maybe I try to shop online, but the website isn't accessible with my screen reader. My screen reader isn't able to read any of the links. That's not my problem. In 2020, we have advanced technology has gotten to a point where it's amazing, right? So all of these things should be available to us, but we run into these situations where we're not able to accomplish our day-to-day tasks.
I mean, you think about it like this. Think about just in the simple terms of transportation, the options that you have, that we both have been blind or vision impaired. Now not so much do you just have public transit. You don't just have the bus, things like or a train. Now you have shared services. So you can hit up that Uber, you can hit up that Lyft to get around.
Now, in terms of, I know you talked about being a coach before for
Mhm.
TSB, for Tennessee School for the Blind, track and field coach. You also talked about being was you working at a shipping spot or
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah.
Okay. Have you had any other jobs outside of that?
Yeah, I had a couple. I worked at a man. I'm trying not to name no names, but yeah, I had a couple other jobs.
What were your responsibilities? Let's do that.
uh, Other ones were I worked at a fitness facility, and I had to I made sure the members were well taken care of. I did fitness orientations, things like that. I had another job where I was pretty much over all the youth recreation facilities. But you know what, man? Honestly, even in those positions in the interview process, there were some times where people might have been very iffy if I could do it. The concern was
Right.
how would you get to work? Well, what are the things that we have to do to help you? And there were times where they were all for it, but then there were other times where some people kind of felt like my accommodations were an inconvenience. So I can see how sometimes some people feel like, well, why would I even try if it's gonna get shot down?
I kind of wrestle with the accommodations and how people view them, because the reason I say that is that if they had just the average person who didn't have a disability or a visible disability, they would still do what they needed to do to make sure that person was properly onboarded. So if you had a job where you stepped into the office for the first time, for those first 2 or 3 weeks, they're going to invest more time into you so that you can get used to your job duties, so that you can get used to what you're going to be doing on the computer or on the floor or in or outside of the operating room or whatever it is. You go through the training. You're going to be a mentee to a manager or whoever, a CEO, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I just don't see why it should be any different for us or anyone who has a disability for that matter. There is a process where we get the job, then wouldn't you do what you need to do? Wouldn't you need to and want to do what you need to do to make sure that myself or you or anyone else would be able to do that job adequately, instead of looking at it like, oh man, I gotta invest some time or I have to invest some extra funds into this. Like, if you really care about the growth and development of your business and ensuring that you have a diverse population, a diverse work staff, then I just feel like you should just want to do that regardless.
Yeah, you should be willing to do any and everything, especially when you have an employee or an applicant who is going to help better your business or organization, whatever you have going on. I feel like that's where the inconvenience shouldn't even be a thought. It should be, yeah, let me make sure they have all the tools and materials necessary to be an asset to what we have going on.
Yeah, and if you consider yourself a leader, that comes with responsibilities. You are guiding others, you're helping others, you're helping them to see their potential and what they're able to achieve. So why would you look at it as an inconvenience? You're trying to help this person see what they can do and who they can
Mhm.
become. So you would want to make sure that you provide them with the necessary resources, equip them with the skill set, the tools that they'll need, so that one day they'll be able to, they won't need you right there hand in hand with them. And that's not to say that people won't reach out and ask questions. We all need help at some point or another, but it's the whole, the man, how's it go? Give a man a fish and I can't even recite it.
Yeah,
I hear it
I know
all of
what
the time,
you're
but
trying to say. Yeah,
basically,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, if you keep feeding them, they're gonna keep coming to you day after day after day. But if you teach them how to acquire their own food, then they won't need to lean on you as much. And that's the goal in life. You don't want people to be coming at you all of the time and having to depend on you. That's not what life is about. It's about building into excuse me, building into other people, helping them to grow so that they can go out here and fend for themselves and do things for themselves, which, as we talk about, can blind people live on their own. I think that's why we talk a lot about having really great counselors and teachers of the visually impaired, and having all of these resources and tools available so that we can do that, and so that we can break this misconception and perception that's out there that, oh man, this blind person can't do it on their own. Because I remember I was on campus my first 2 years of college, and I had a roommate for maybe a semester of those 2 years. The other year and a half, I had the room to myself. Now I was on campus,
Mhm.
so that's a different type of scene. I have the cafeteria, I have everything in close proximity. But my junior and senior year, myself and a few of my friends, we ended up getting an apartment off campus. By that time, I had a job. I was working at Campus Living, and what else was I doing? I was competing at the time too.
Hey, what were you doing at campus living?
Campus Living out. Man, I was an office assistant. So I was working for the residential network and the residential networking department, which basically means that all of the kids would call in if they had viruses on their computer or something was going on with their internet. They would call us up. I'll pick up the phone and field their questions and concerns and schedule appointments for our man, what would we call them? I don't even know the name, but they would basically go out and repair and fix these issues that students would have in their dorm rooms. So I would
Right.
set that schedule up, make sure all of our workers knew where to go, what room, what the students' names were, and things like that. Then I was what else? I was doing little odds and ends, stuffing envelopes and um, shredding stuff, and yeah, it was a cake job, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I was back there. I was back there. I was getting my work done. Don't get me wrong, but there were definitely some times too where it was just some chilling. But it was a great job, and it was something that I had a similar job growing up in Raleigh as a high school junior and senior during the summer times, actually. And I was working at the community center for Pullen Park. And I had similar responsibilities, answering the phone. People would come in, the general public would come in and ask questions about different programs that would be ran out of that facility. So I would tell them what we offered, what days, what times, the cost of those things. And eventually I had moved up to the let's see here, visually impaired program. So I was now at the main office
Hmm.
for Parks and Recreation in Raleigh. And there I was working for the visually impaired program. We had about 400 some odd participants on our roster, and we would design different programs for participants to engage in, to take part in. So we would have bowling for the seniors on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe it was. There was an actual bowling league, and I still think it's going on to this day, the Raleigh Outlaws. They used to bowl on Friday evenings, and they would have tournaments and things like that. We also had the beat baseball team. We had practices, and once the season started, we would travel to different cities to play against High Point, against Spartanburg, Charlotte.
Mhm.
We also had a lot of our participants were a little older, excuse me, and they didn't have access to transportation. Maybe some of them didn't have connections with a lot of outside like friends and family. So sometimes
Yeah.
we would literally just have outings where we would take them out to eat, and we would have a game night to get them out of the house, get them moving around, allow them the chance to socialize, to just get out there and live and have a good time, see some of their friends. I really enjoyed some of those outings because some of our participants, they were absolutely comedians. Man, they would have me cracking up. But that was a really good job as well. And we will also have, there were a couple times we had an adapted ski program that was held in Beach Mountain. And I wonder if it still is is happening to this day. But that was a really great program. That one required a little more planning.
Yeah.
People had to save their coins up for a few months to be able to go on that trip. But it had a lot of great rewards from that, being able to get people on the mountain and having them working with facilitators who could, or instructors who could help them learn how to ski, helping them to learn how to wedge and to work with a sighted guide while they're on the mountain. That was a lot of fun. And there was another program that I was super happy about. We had a trip to a Stevie Wonder concert one evening.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder had came to Raleigh one year, and we were able to get some discounted tickets. We took some participants to there. We had a phenomenal time that night. That man
Hey,
Stevie was,
did
you
y'all get
already
to
know
meet?
Stevie was getting it in.
Did y'all get to meet him?
Oh, we didn't get to meet him. We didn't get to meet him.
Man.
But I'm pretty sure had he knew,
Yeah.
if there was a connection that could have been made, I think that probably would have been something that could have happened, given the all of the good things that you hear about Stevie Wonder, and he seems to
Yeah.
be pretty personable. And I mean, I met him in Vegas one time, and he's just a real cool person.
Oh wait, you got to meet him.
Yeah, I met him in Vegas one time.
Vegas.
Yeah,
Man. Hey, that's what's up. Everybody can't say that.
yeah. No, it was a really it was fun. It was surreal. It was a really surreal moment because you're sitting there inside of I think we're at the MGM Grand, and he comes out, he's doing his thing, playing all the hits. All the hits. We in there singing "Happy Birthday
Hey,
to
don't hurt
you."
him. Don't hurt him.
Hey,
Don't hurt
he
him.
was doing all of that. And after it was over, we had some of the passes, the
Yeah.
meet and greet passes. We get in there, I meet him, shake up with him, and he tells me that he's basically like, like, I'm proud of what you're doing. Um, so he had heard what I was doing as a Paralympic athlete, so that was pretty cool. It pumped my head up a little bit,
Man, hey,
and
I don't know how they fit you out of the room that day.
man, I was sliding to the side, uh, and yeah, I mean, it was wild. I was like, man, that was Stevie Wonder.
Right. Hey, but what would you say, kind of getting back, what would be like what's something that's key that people who are blind and visually impaired need to be on their own, or maybe not on their own, but to be as independent as possible? I know we always talk about advocating,
Yeah, I
which is
think
good, but
right. Um, I think a lot of it is being able to, everybody's situation is different, right? So you have someone who may lose their sight at 25, you may have someone who loses their sight at 12. But I think that at the end of the day, it's all about when you do start to experience it, number one, being able to come to grips with this new reality and being able to live within your skin comfortably,
Mhm.
accepting yourself and realizing that, all right, this is the reality. Then once you get over that, then I would say that it boils down to doing a lot of research and seeking out the right individuals to help you successfully transition to this new life. So we had, growing up, I was going to Governor Moorhead School in the
Mhm.
summertime, and they had independent living classes. They taught us how to cook, but not only that, they taught us about the different types of equipment, adapted equipment that you could use to help you cook. So maybe you have a talking timer, maybe you have a braille timer. There's different measuring cups that you have that have tactile indicators that you can feel. You have different, I mean, you can buy a lot of those things, but then you can also get creative and adapt things yourself. You have, you can write braille labels and label different canisters and label your salt bottle or your pepper canister or the sugar or whatever it is. If you need large print, you can maybe get a black Sharpie and write what it is in big letters. I think it's also about being as organized as possible and setting up your stuff in a way that you know where everything is. If you have a microwave in your home, you have the, what are those things called? I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's basically like powder paint where you
Are you
can,
talking about the puff paint?
the puff paint, right,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. Thank you. So you
yeah.
can put that on. It's literally like glue that you can put on the number 5 or the number 1 or wherever you want to place those things on your microwave so that you can identify the different buttons by touching them.
Yeah,
You can
that's what I
set,
do. I do that on the stove
yeah, yeah,
because I can't get close to see all the way back there to make sure I got it right on medium, or if it's halfway between medium and high. So I put the little puff paint on there as an indicator,
yeah.
just so you know, like, all right, well, I done already passed 2 of them, so I got to be halfway. But I think that's key, man. What you just said, you got to be able to adapt, and if
Yeah, and
you
I
don't
think
gotta
you
be,
make a, my bad.
go
Hold on
ahead,
for
go
a little
ahead.
second. You make a good point because I feel like a lot of visually impaired individuals or people who are low vision feel as though if they have their sight, they have to use it. And I don't think that that's necessarily, you don't have to use your sight all of the time. I think that
Mm-mm.
if you can also learn to tap into those other senses, um, then now you're in a position where you may not have to strain your eyes. Like, e.g., your example that you just used about not being able to see towards the back of the stove. You don't have to. Let's say you're trying to, like you have previously been cooking something, and now you need to turn on the oven for whatever reason. So let
Mm-hmm.
me let me get my thought. Let me get my thought together a little better. Let's say you have one of the eyes on the top of the stove on, you were cooking something, but now you want to get that oven going because you got to put something in the oven. So if you try to use your sight, you need to lean over
Well, you
to
gonna
get
burn your
closer
chest
to,
up.
you know? So if you can have different tactile indicators or a method that you can use to reduce the chances of you hurting yourself or not having to strain your eyes as much, um, I think that's something that you need to work on.
That's like you said, it's gonna save you time. It's gonna save you stress. Because I'm gonna be honest, at first, my wife was like, "Well, once you put something on there," I was like, "Man, I don't need to put anything on there." And then I thought about it. I was like, There's no point in me, like you said, trying to strain my eyes and see to the back. I might lean over, light my shirt up, then that ain't a good situation." But the same with like a measuring cup. You could take that puff paint, put it on the side of that measuring cup, all right, well, once it gets here, because sometimes when you put that water, especially if you're doing like water or something, well, it's gonna magnify what's on the back. So those lines on the back gonna throw you off from looking at the lines on the front. You can do things like that. I've known people who were told they use that, the top of their finger. When they hit their finger, they stop.
Right.
You got to kind of get creative too.
Yeah, I think that I definitely need to. Well, for starters, I haven't had to cook anything in a few years, being at the at the Olympic Training Center. But I would imagine that they have upgraded and have a lot of amazing things right now. But what I was going to say is a lot of people may use their finger when they're pouring something. They may use their tip of their finger to know when to stop, when they're pouring something. So if you have your lemonade and you're pouring it to a glass, you may stick your finger in there, and once it rises to the level of your finger, then you'll stop. But I also remember them having this little device that you could put it on the edge of your cup, and once the liquid would hit the metal prong that rested on the side of that cup, then it would make a buzzing sound. So that lets someone know that, okay, you need to stop pouring. I think that's really good for hot items. You had that coffee
Yeah.
pot, and
You ain't sticking your finger in that black coffee.
man, hey, finger will be gone.
Hey, fingernail be ruined.
And that's the last. As a blind person, I need all my fingers,
Hey, you need all them. You need all them feelings at the tip of your fingers, man.
all, all of them. But even and you think about the washer and dryer too. You could also put the the puff paint up there as well, so that you're able to know if the water is hot or if it's warm, cold, warm, warm, cold, cold. When you're operating the dryer and you want to put it on high heat, low heat, um, all of those things are useful.
And at some point, there is time where you need. Everybody's gonna need someone at some point, and you might need somebody to come over to help you kind of situate it. And if you don't, if you feel like you don't have anybody, I mean, they got apps where somebody can talk to you and tell you, what it is you're doing. But I think it goes back to what you said earlier. You gotta get creative and inventive sometimes.
Yeah, that is. Let me see. You have Be My Eyes, which is
Yep.
the free app you download on your phone. For all of my low vision folk out there, downloading it on your phone, you can tap into that app and have a live volunteer, a human being who can see through your phone camera and let you know what items are. You have Ira, which I prefer Ira, really great service. And you're able to tap into the Ira app, have a human agent. They can see through your phone camera and give you insight on different things. But you can also, with the Ira app, you can connect it to your Uber or Lyft account. So now they're able to see what car, what person is going to be picking you up. So as you stand outside, they can see and say, okay, well, the blue Toyota Prius is coming up. Let me see if I can see the person on the inside. Okay. That looks like the picture on your app. So you should be safe. Or they may also ask to look at the license plate too to match that up. They'll give you the name also when you hop in the car. You say, oh, okay, is this John? Is this Marquez? Like who? So they're able to confirm all of those things. And the other cool thing with Ira is they're able to connect to your computer if you ever need any type of assistance on your PC or Mac.
When you
So
say
I've
they can
used them.
connect, when they connect to your computer, where they can see your screen.
They can see the screen. So I've done a couple programs. I facilitated some programs online in this virtual world that we're living in right now. And I've been able to dictate to them as I've had my PowerPoint slides going, hey, can you take it to the next slide? Can you take me here? Can you take me there? And they're just literally there listening in and following the directions. So it's almost like you have this virtual assistant, if you will. They've also helped me to go through pictures on my computer. They've helped me to access different sites that aren't accessible. So circling back to our point earlier about when you don't have the ability to navigate certain links or headers, or if JAWS or VoiceOver isn't reading anything on that website, you got to get the job done somehow, especially if no one is around you. Those are
Yeah.
times where I can hit Ira up and say, hey, can you connect to my computer? I'm trying to complete this task. I need some help. And and they can tap into your computer with a third party software that you just simply download on your machine.
What about, I know we talked about this before, but like for me, like, being dressed and how we go out when we do leave, I think something that people are always shocked by. And I saw this when I was, coaching and all this other stuff. People be, oh wow, look, they're dressed so nice. And I would
Yeah.
always say, they know how to put clothes on.
Right.
And then people, they try to reel it back. Well, no, I didn't mean it
I
like
didn't mean
that.
it like that.
Yeah, that's not what I was trying to say. I was like, we live in a world that is so reliant on vision that it's just hard for people to fathom without it. But
Yeah, they rely on sight. If they relied on vision, they'll be in a better space. They rely on
yeah,
sight.
sight. That's what I meant to say. They sight. They rely on that sight because I'd always tell people it's just like you waking up in the middle of the night. You know how to maneuver through your house because you've gone through those steps so many times.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but we're not waking up in the middle of the night. It's every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you talk about clothes, you have the braille tags that can be sewn in, and the braille tags may read the color red or blue or brown, white, what have you. But then you also have the color identifiers that can identify the colors. And I know we had mentioned it before, but sometimes with those, they don't really get super detailed. So they'll tell you red, but they won't tell you that it's, I don't know, cardinal or like dark red or heathered red, or whatever colors. There's so many colors out
Yeah.
here nowadays. But then again, you think about just being as organized as possible and then being able to put things in certain areas. I know certain drawers for me have certain t-shirts and my underclothes, or certain shorts and tank tops and things like that. And I place them in a specific area. So I know that this is on the left-hand side. My blue polo shirts are in the middle. My black CK Calvin Klein t-shirts on the right-hand side. Like, all of that is, like, organization is a blind person's best asset, best friend.
Yeah. Are there any places where you think like, man, I really don't want to go by myself? Like, like if you're going to get a pair of shoes or something, you like, man, I really need to see if somebody can go with me. Because I can think of places where I'm like, man, I really don't want to go by myself. For instance, well, things, it's a whole lot easier now because like with restaurants, the menus are always, majority of the time you can pull the menu up online. But
Yeah.
I've been to, I've been to a couple places, maybe like a coffee shop to maybe grab a couple drinks. They don't have a menu. So then I'm just like, so then for a second, I'm like, man, I really don't want to, wish I had somebody with me. But, and I got to snap myself out of it. And then I just say, I kind of tell whoever it is what I want. You have anything like this kind of thing. But I think for me, I don't like going into, places where I got to read menus or signs by myself. Is
Yeah.
there anything like that for you?
I would say I feel that, because restaurants are, you walk in, the hostess comes up and asks you how many people. Let's say I go in there by myself. Oh, just one. So now you're at a position where you have to let them know, all right, I need some assistance.
Yeah.
And hopefully they won't be uncomfortable with that, but you're having to navigate through the restaurant, and don't let it be super crowded. And now the person is really trying to figure out, okay, well, am I helping them the right way?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to run into anything or any of those things, because I feel like 9 times out of 10, my personal opinion is that you come in there by yourself, people are going to be turning heads.
Oh yeah, they gonna be looking.
So you run into a chair or trip and fall or something like that. It just, man,
It's gonna get real quiet when you do that too.
right, right. But then once you make it to the table, and you sit down, if you didn't do that previous research to know what's on the menu, um, then now you ask the waiter or the waitress, or you use Ira or Be My Eyes or whatnot to read the menu, especially if they don't have a braille one or a large print menu.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible, but to answer your question, my personal opinion on that is, if I go to a restaurant, I most likely want to be with someone. And then you already know that while you're in that restaurant, again, people will be looking around and stuff like that, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, like that blind guy is sitting by himself. Like,
Yeah, they be like, no,
oh
that poor blind guy is sitting by himself.
But
But for me,
nevertheless, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done it before and there's nothing wrong with it, but I would just prefer to go to restaurants with someone.
and I'm the same way. And another something I run into in restaurants a lot of time, and it's dim, it's dark, and I'm pulling out my phone trying to read. If I use the magnifier on my phone trying to read it, or I might just ask my wife, and she's good at saying, well, you're probably like this and like that. And but they trying to set an intimate mood, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really struggle with that, trying to read, and a lot of times it's either written in some kind of italicized font or cursive, but it's small.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of contrast. So going out, I always try to look up the menu beforehand and just go ahead and know what I want.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think that it just we go to the restaurant, we go to the restaurants, we go to the airports, we go to the grocery stores, like we hold down the house too. I mean,
Yeah.
you have your spot right now. We've had Markeith on before. He has a spot. He lives with his wife. I've had an apartment before and will have an apartment in a house at some point in the near future. Once I'm done with the athletic piece,
Hey, once they hang that uniform up in the rafters.
they hang it up. But it's totally possible at the end of the day to see that type of question. Can blind people live on their own? It just makes me laugh a lot of times, because you think about all of the things that we're able to do and all of the things that we're currently doing. There's so many incredible people out here, which is a really good segue into some of the next few episodes that we're going to do. We want to bring in some of these people and talk to them about their experiences, how they may have lost their sight. And if it's someone who, we're going to have some people who aren't necessarily low vision, but they may have done some work with those who are low vision, currently do work with those who are low vision. So really trying to bring in some other perspectives, other people, amazing men and women out here who are doing it, so that we can continue to break this perception of blind and visually impaired.
Yeah, like you said, man, that's a good segue. I hope they're ready for this next chapter we're about to write with Sight School, because we're gonna bring people in, like you said, who've not only been a huge support for those who are blind and vision impaired, but also those who are blind and vision impaired themselves. Some were born with a disability. Others got it later in life. But I think we always have to know that by default, we are ambassadors for the blind and vision impaired community. There's nothing we can do to get away from it. So that what we do in public or in conversation is going to represent everyone else by no choice of ours. So if we strive to be, like what the Google thing say, live on our own, be independent, then those who come after us, those who are here now, they won't have to so much knock down that barrier, because if everybody's doing it, it's gonna fall a lot easier.
Are continuing to have sight school, because somewhere along the road, someone may fall upon this, enjoy it, learn something, grasp onto something that's going to help them to live and help them to ultimately see their potential. And that's really what we want at the end of the day, teaching people to see.
Most definitely.
Hey man, let them know where they can find us.
You listening to the podcast right now, go ahead, give us a like. If you hadn't done so already, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below. Also, you got any inquiries, whatever, shoot us an email at thesiteschool@gmail.com. That's thesiteschool@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All of them, just type in Sight School. You'll find us.